Frey commits suicide, and her memoir is released posthumously by her family members. And in it portrays Andrew's behavior in a much more detailed and damning way. King Charles, at that point, strips the prince of his title, the Duke of York, says he can't be called prince anymore, and ultimately kicks the prince out of his home that he'd lived in on the property of Windsor Castle for about 20 years.
Obviously, nobody wants to get kicked out of their home, but this is not exactly like he's being banished to Siberia.
No, absolutely. I mean, he was clearly embarrassed by all of the press, but he's still, at the end of the day, eighth in line to the throne, and the consequences were mostly social consequences, not anything else.
And then, of course, in January, the United States releases this enormous trove of files, 3 million files, and what emerges very quickly are more damning details.
Tried to flip off somebody in the chat who said the prince was innocent.
I think that, as you said, there were a lot of details about how close the two men were and the number of times that they were together, both parties and other places. But I think the most damning thing was yet another photo. And this one was of Andrew appearing to kind of kneel over a woman who was lying on the floor. Her face is blacked out, so you can't see who it is, and it's hard to tell whether she was conscious or not. But that photo
or alive or dead
really has crystallized the sense of outrage over this idea that he was inappropriate with young women. And it led
so you finally see all these other photos
to the king actually putting out a statement that directly commented on Andrew's behavior. It expressed what the king said was profound concern at the allegations which continue to come to light, and very importantly, said that if he is approached by the police, that, quote, we stand ready to support them as you would expect. It really was, I think, the first moment that the prospect of some kind of criminal punishment for Andrew seemed more possible, given the fact that the king was sort of opening the door to that idea.
But do the police need the king to open the door for them to launch any kind of investigation?
Do we need somebody to open the door?
Legally, no. There's no question that the police can investigate and they have the power to arrest who they want to arrest. But I think from the public relations perspective, after years in which the family seemed very much to be trying to protect Andrew, the fact that the king had promised to help the police if they came to him, that was significant.
I don't understand, though, if police don't need a green light from the royal family to conduct a criminal investigation, has there even been one before this, given the fact that there have been criminal allegations against Andrew for years? And if there hasn't been one, do we know why there hasn't been one?
Look, I think that is one of the big questions. Why haven't police in Britain, but also in the United States, why haven't they been more aggressive in looking into the allegations and ultimately taking action? And I think
not
part
just
of
Andrew,
the
but Les Wexner, they said never got a visit from by the FBI.
The thing that has become really powerful,
they somehow had time to come to my house
sort of raw evidence
for saying automatic citizenship for
publication of that evidence, and the
everyone
pressure
ice
that has come
contacts
from that on prosecutors, on the royal family, has really sort of been the thing that has driven the case forward more than the actual investigations from the authorities.
And we should note that the arrest of a former prince, if not a current prince, is still a monumentally huge deal to the British public.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you have to think about it this way. The last time that a sitting member of the British royal family was arrested was in 1649, almost 400 years ago. King Charles I was arrested for treason in the middle of the English Civil War at the time. That is 150 years before the United States was even around. That was the last time a member of the royal family was arrested.
And what kind of consequences does he face if convicted?
They're pretty serious. He hasn't been charged yet, but assuming he was charged and ultimately convicted, he could face a maximum sentence of life in prison.
Michael, I think this is only the third arrest total associated with the Jeffrey Epstein scandal. There was Jeffrey Epstein, there was his longtime associate Ghislaine Maxwell, and now obviously
who now has a puppy.
And this arrest happened in England. And meanwhile, in this country, the United States, the consequences that we have seen for people associated with Jeffrey Epstein who have come under suspicion have largely, if not entirely, fallen outside of the legal system. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, it's maybe on one level not that surprising.
Because
I
the
would
legal
also
system's
say
totally
that,
corrupt.
this country has a real media culture that involves tabloids. Reporters are very aggressive. When they get into the middle of a scandal, they don't let
The
go.
question
And I
isn't
think
why
that
have journalists been into it. The question is why hasn't the judicial system done anything?
How hungry people are for accountability in this whole case, and how
And the
much
lack of accountability
that
makes us
demand
really
for
hungry for accountability.
exceeds what the legal system has delivered in the past several years.
It exceeds what they've delivered because they haven't delivered squat.
Absolutely. Happy to have been on. Thanks for having me.
What I've talked about on my channel has exceeded what the legal system has delivered.
Progressive. Building a career is possible at Progressive Insurance. Now offering virtual and hybrid employment opportunities with pathways for advancement.
And there's not just a demand for information, there's a demand for consequences. This Epstein class has to be taken down. This shouldn't be debated. Dude, you need to stop. Like everybody knows Donna Kudinski. Yes, someone donated to you. Yes, someone donated to you. Thanks. That's a lot of sneezing. Hey, Joseph. Nice to see you. We were listening to some reports on the Epstein files, but it wasn't really that great of a report. I guess they were reporting on Andrew, so Prince Andrew getting arrested and stuff. That's all they're really talking about. Oh my gosh. This is ridiculous.
Nick, welcome to the Daily.
It's great to be here, Joel.
From the most recent batch of files that was released by the Justice Department, in part because the consequences here seem to be coming harder and faster for people.
They're coming hard. They're coming fast.
Talk about why that is, but first, I just want you to explain to us what we have been seeing over the last few days and weeks.
So we are looking into the investigations files of the federal government for this high-profile sex predator and all of his friends and all of his associates. And what we've seen is that as reporters and ordinary people are digging through these files, they are finding information about his friendships with other prominent, powerful, and wealthy people. And they are beginning to face consequences for their friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, who is long dead.
I have to say, every single day, it feels like there is a new law firm partner, a new CEO, a new head of something who has lost their job or position because of what has come out in these files. The New York Times has even come out with a whole tracker, basically, to help us keep track of all of these different names. I want to talk about some of the most notable people to lose their jobs. Maybe we can start with Kathy Rumler, who was, up until very recently, the general counsel for Goldman Sachs.
Kathy Rumler had always maintained that she had a strictly professional relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. She was a lawyer, and as we all know, lawyers sometimes represent unpopular or loathsome clients.
Of course.
But what these emails show was that she was more than a lawyer. She was a friend. She was a confidant. Mm-hmm. She discussed her dating life with him. He gave her gifts. She called him Uncle Jeffrey. She signed emails XO. And she even gave him advice on how to handle questions about his sex crimes from the past.
And Goldman Sachs, to be clear, did not push her out of the firm.
That's right. And it appeared that she was going to stick it out. And then one day she decided, I'm going to resign. I can't handle all the scrutiny, the constant drumbeat of stories. And the mechanism really is something that's hidden from us as to whose patience was worn out first.
Right.
Stories was her punishment.
I actually want to talk about somebody else who's sort of similarly interesting, and that's Brad Clark.
When the stories are their only punishment, I guess we better keep up the stories.
He got a lot of flack a few months back when his firm made a deal with the Trump administration that in exchange for providing
a relationship with a known predator, a known sex offender. We saw that he went to a fancy dinner at Epstein's house. We saw that he even offered some legal opinions to Epstein about Epstein's plea deal, right? The plea deal that put him in jail the first time for soliciting a minor for prostitution.
Right.
And so it seems that those details, unlike deal with Trump that many saw as capitulation to a frivolous threat, or what pushed him over the edge and out of the chairmanship. And it's one thing to advise a client who is a sex predator. It's a separate thing to be friends with somebody. You're chummy with them. You exhibit no judgment towards them at all in the friendship realm. Why are you friends with this guy?
Seem pretty chummy with
Why
Trump
are
too.
you helping him figure out how to troubleshoot his legal problems that stem from soliciting a minor for prostitution?
Alan
Or the reader,
Dershowitz.
or the person, at what point did a bell go off in your head to say, perhaps I should not be so close to this guy?
Never.
That is what I think was so toxic for these two people in their positions of trust at these two big institutions, Goldman Sachs, one of the nation's leading financial institutions, and Paul Weiss, a major law firm. And if you add one more layer, part of the connection here is the relationship with Leon Black, the billionaire investor, and work that Epstein did for Leon Black. So if you're Brad Karp, the person looking at all this is wondering, are you helping this sex predator because there's money in it for your firm because of these financial professional relationships?
Right. It's another thing.
But this is corporate law.
Right, exactly. The last person I want to talk about is Casey Wasserman, who is an enormously influential figure in media and in entertainment. His talent agency represents some of the biggest names in sports and music, some of the biggest performers. He separately is helping to run the Olympics. Tell us what happened with him.
You know, I think he's in some ways the most interesting case in a way that perhaps reveals some of the fault lines around what we make of the fallout of Epstein. So you might ask, so what did he do with Epstein?
What did he do?
Yeah, let's ask.
The answer, as far as we can say right now, is not much. In 2002 and 2003, two things happened. In 2002, Wasserman flew on Epstein's plane as part of a humanitarian trip with Bill Clinton.
Oh, humanitarian.
And the second thing is that after that trip in 2003, he exchanged emails with Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's accomplice. This is a few years before Epstein gets arrested in Palm Beach, and Maxwell's role as Epstein's accomplice doesn't begin to come into focus until a few years after that.
Oh, so it's kind of
And she
flavor.
isn't convicted of a crime until 2021.
Oh, it's
almost 2
everything's
decades
fine.
after she and Wasserman were emailing each other.
Everything's so fucked.
And yet, this month, after some details of those exchanges became public, Casey Wasserman announced that he would step down from it and try to sell his own talent agency after some higher profile clients said they would sever ties with his firm.
Done.
I think it shows that even
High
people who
profile
are not
clients.
accused of taking part in Epstein's crimes, or even enabling them, can now face serious life-altering consequences just for having some association with him.
You should have done something
Michael
about
Shane
it.
made the point to us earlier that people's hunger for accountability far outstrips what they feel they are getting from the legal system. Former Prince Andrew, for instance.
Well, the legal
that's only,
system
I think,
needs
the
to get
third
off its
arrest that we
ass.
have seen where Jeffrey himself, of course, plays well. And I wonder
Who
if
now has a
that
puppy.
helps to explain at all the public appetite
only
for
prisoner with a
some
puppy.
kind of consequence like what we are seeing now. A little bit regardless of what the people have actually done.
What do you mean regardless of what they've done? Why does it sound like you're covering for
At the heart of this whole here,
the Epstein class?
the principal person responsible for all of it has been dead
Oh,
for
so we should,
7 years.
you know,
And
no one cares about
a
Epstein
lot
anymore
of
anyway. He's swimming with us all now around their private
implicated in
island.
some way in his system of power and abuse.
Nobody cares about Epstein anymore
Did not
anyway.
do
He's swimming with Charlie Kirk and us all.
Might have been hard to prosecute.
But
Oh, hard to prosecute.
Right? A lot of people who lost their positions indicted on any kind of criminal behavior. So in some ways, it actually
In this country anymore,
We have
much
laws
of
against pedophilia,
it's a shared
murder.
understanding for what deserves shame. And what we're left with, from my point, but if the other about it, you don't get in trouble. And there are so many questions we cannot answer right now that the survivors can't answer, that the public can't answer, that the people in charge of law and order can't answer.
Whatever these
There's almost a
losers
sense
say,
that any
there's
form of
totally
justice
moral
for anybody connected to
standards
Jeffrey
about
Epstein
this.
is important and necessary, because real justice feels so elusive.
It feels so elusive. It is elusive.
Hey, Confessori.
The real
Thank you so
justice
much.
hasn't happened.
Thank you, Rachel.
That's why people want justice. Justice is a tangible result in many cases that we can also tangibly not feel at this time.
That a password manager for business can help protect employees, executives, and IT teams in the new year.
It's ridiculous to act like people just have a hyped up sense of justice based on their tribalism.
For everything
Not,
you need to know about the most important
no, we just
stories
haven't
of
had
the
any
day.
consequences
You're
for these people
listening
who've
to The
committed
Daily from
all
the
the
New York
worst
Times, distributed
wrongs
by
against
American Public
everyone's
Media.
collective
8 p.m.
agreed
produces
upon
and
morals.
distributes programs
Nobody
that
has
inform
morals that
and
allows the
inspire,
Epstein class.
entertain and engage audiences everywhere.
They're not moral considered to a certain tribe.
Journalism of the New York
I mean, just
Times
because the
is
Trump
distributed
boutonnieres
by
don't have
8
any
p.m.
morals
American
because
Public
they've been
Media.
compromised and
Go
brainwashed
deeper
into
into
accepting all this
stories you hear on
bullshit.
The Daily
But then so are
at
we when they present it this way.
NYTimes.com/The Daily.
Can't believe these losers on the Daily. These journalists. Journalists trying to glaze
I'm Rachel Abrams.
the Epstein class. Unbelievable.
This is CPR News, 90.1 FM KCFR Denver, 1490 AM KCFC Boulder, on HD at 90.1 FM at CPR.org, and on your smart speaker. Say play CPR News.
It's Cozy Combo Day, a great time to become an Evergreen member. Join as a monthly supporter and pick up our new winter scarf. And today only, we'll add a bonus, socks. Monthly giving is an easy way to keep CPR strong all year long. New member, returning member, or switching from yearly giving, today's the day to donate $18 a month. Join now and grab the Cozy Combo at CPR.
All right, hello folks. Anybody in the chat?
Is the TED Radio
Just
Hour.
all bots again.
Each week, groundbreaking TED Talks.
Our job now is to dream big.
It's usually bots and apparently children. The children aren't supposed to be allowed to see the live.
Understand who we are. From those talks, we bring you speakers and ideas that will surprise you.
You just don't know what you're going to find.
Challenge you. to
And for the record, fuck those kids. They're Nazis.
I literally feel like I'm in
Age is no
a-
excuse.
Do you feel
Hold
that
on a
way?
second.
Ideas worth spreading.
This is where it's spreading.
TED and NPR. I'm Manoush Zamarodi. Coming up.
Number 1, no smartphone before high school. Number 2, no social media before 16. Number 3, phone-free
Why did it
schools.
end right as we got here? Oh, here we
Kind
go.
of authoritarian approach. We need to teach children how to navigate the world and not idealize a world that is no longer here.
On the show today, the latest on the movement to get kids off their screens. First, this
Okay. Even though this thing's a circle. Well, it's just BBC climate change. Oh my gosh.
Some of the ways we use land. But how do we balance ecoculture and agriculture? This is Climate Watch.
Just stop
from
the
BBC.
damn fossil fuel industry.
The Earth is warming.
And shut up acting like it's about anything other than that. Put that quote on there, but they never talk about stuff like that.
I'm Caroline Steele, and this week in the English Fenlands, a naturally wet, marshy region, most of which was drained for agriculture centuries ago. What's left contains a hugely diverse range of plants and animals. The BBC's Justin Rowlatt went to meet Dr. Laurie Friday from the Cambridge Centre for Landscape Regeneration.
When you start draining peat, it dries out. When it dries out, all the microbes in it that would like to destroy it start working on it. It's
That's pretty awesome, but I better go.
Once you drain
Somebody's driving up behind me.
It then break down into trials of substance plus carbon dioxide, which goes into the atmosphere.
Fun is over.
Climate change worse. And this is one of the small areas.
Traffic
And
rules.
this is really precious because where else are we going to find biodiversity to actually?
Anyway.
Well, so I've come across the fence to join Luke Applin.
That was fun and everything.
Coming into your fields here.
But climate change, climate watch from the BBC is the worst fucking.
From Cambridge, they love these stations.
Let's act like it's about something other than stopping the fossil fuel industry.
What you need to do is extend your field boundaries a little bit.
Act like it's
Create a
about.
bigger margin. Some water levels a bit. Save yourself a bit of money on all the energy you're using to pump.
What can every single person do to allow the oil companies to continue destroying the planet? But they can't do something.
Is in effect. So I've got potatoes with sugar beet down here. There's also cabbages, lettuces. So if we then do raise a war left, we can't go on to grow these crops.
Also
then there's no
lettuces.
else in the country really that can kind of take over to do it.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. BBC Climate Watch pisses me off.
Megan Hudson is head of research at Oxford. It's part of Taylor Farms, which is experimenting with growing food crops in much wetter soil. A method called paludiculture, which stops the peat breaking down and producing carbon dioxide. We've got a bit over there that we're looking at, sort of
I mean, this is actually interesting and helpful. I shouldn't make so much fun of it.
actually snake all sorts of different things on, say, like the calories just allowed it, all that kind of stuff. Genuinely, how scalable do you think this is? Is this something that everyone in the fence might be able to do? I think the jury's out on that one, but we are getting better results from fences, growing them in times, stables. If this were in there, it's hope that actually there might be a solution moving forward.
It just makes me so mad.
It's just the year
Climate Watch. How just to the planet we keep warming because we won't stop warming it. It's like, just stop warming the planet. It does help. Agriculture is important.
They have 80 miles of ditches and hedges, and Kent University did a study of their biodiversity. Actually,
I'm gonna have to shut it down. I'm too bored by it.
And that, to me, is the bit that's sometimes missing in all of this.
Justin Rolat in the English Fens.
I like hearing their voices. I like hearing them say English Fens. That's fun. We don't say Fens here.
In the story of Colorado's ski resorts, Aspen comes first. Once a bustling mining town, when the silver market collapsed, Aspen nearly disappeared. But a few determined skiers cut a trail, built a tiny lodge, and put in a ski lift that was an actual boat pulled uphill by a converted. By the 1940s, Aspen was hosting national ski races. Lift 1 went up, the world's longest and fastest chairlift, and things really began to change. Hotels refreshed, the Wheeler Opera House revived, the Aspen Music Festival and School, and the Aspen Institute opened. Visitors arrived by train, not just for skiing, but for music, lectures, good food, and vibrant streets. This old mining town transformed into Colorado's first true ski resort, a year-round cultural hub. The blueprint for decades of resort building across the state.
Celebrating the sesquicentennial, a Colorado 150 postcard.
It's the TED Radio Hour from NPR. I'm Manoush Zamarodi. Most of us accept that social media has a dark side. But are these platforms finally facing a legal reckoning? A warning, this episode contains mentions of sexual abuse of minors and school shootings.
I said reckoning earlier.
For the very first time, the world's most powerful social media giants are standing trial.
A landmark case could change how your child consumes social media.
A series of trials have begun against Meta, Snapchat, TikTok, and YouTube.
Just take
marking
them all.
the first time these big tech companies have actually been tested in court, facing claims that they have harmed kids.
Seize them for funding trusts
Intentionally
attacking the White
designed to
House.
be addictive, and they are rewiring the way that children think, behave, and learn.
And it's not just in the U.S. Australia recently became the first country to ban social media for users under 16 years old.
Australia is launching a massive nationwide experiment.
French lawmakers have passed similar bans
to shield underage people from cyber harassment, harmful and inappropriate content.
with other countries lining up.
Britain, Ireland, Malaysia, and some Indian states among those considering age limits on children.
And some say the person who ignited this global movement to rise up against the harms of social media on young people is this man, Jonathan Haidt.
I am a social psychologist at New York University's Stern School of Business, and I'm the author of The Anxious Generation and the co-author with Catherine Price of The Amazing Generation.
Before this, John was well known for his work studying the evolution of morality. But then, about a decade ago, he started noticing something in his classroom.
So I've been a professor since 1995. I love being a professor, I love teaching, I love students, I love universities. And all of a sudden, in 2014, and then it's about 2015, everything changed. Students were much more anxious, much more fragile. There was a lot of unrest and accusation and instability on campus. And it wasn't like this in 2012. And the fact that all our mental health centers were filled at universities across the country was a big mystery. What is happening?
People just feeling empowered to talk about what they weren't talking about before.
Generation, which is full of charts and graphs backing up his thesis that technology,
or did people start doing a lot of
particularly
things that
social
needed
media,
accusations?
has created a warped new kind of childhood. More recently, his book, The Amazing Generation, brings a more positive message to kids.
About 5 hours a day just on social media. And if you add in the rest of the stuff that you to 8 to 10 hours a day, counting
On that note, I'll shut it off.
And so what does that push out? Everything. It compresses everything. That means you get less sleep, less play, less sunshine. You don't read books anymore. You don't look into people's eyes very much anymore. You don't spend time with your friends anymore. And so if you spend those crucial years, age 11 or 12 through 16, if you spend those swiping 5 hours a day on, highly stimulating videos that are not stories, they're not literature, they're just little bits of, silliness. Yes, my claim is that will change brain development in ways that will make you less capable, confident, happy,
It does have some
sociable
points.
as an adult.
All right.
Technology has reached full volume.